Welcome to Industry Insights with Route Consultant, your front row seat to the fast-moving world of logistics and beyond. Each week, we bring you game-changing insights, real-world strategies, and fresh perspectives to fuel smarter investments and build stronger businesses. Join us as we sit down with expert guests to explore emerging trends and pressing topics across a wide range of industries. This is Industry Insights. Welcome back to the studio, Alex Frum, to talk through more topics. So, we've talked about
it here before,
at least once, yes. Right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So today, I want to really dive into another part of the kind of the other side of recruiting, which is kind of the benefits and the compensation package that you actually put together for those recruits. But really, I think that ties into the other side of the coin of recruiting, which is retention.
Yeah.
So how all of it works together. But I think first, it would be great to just kind of talk through how your journey has gone in terms of what you initially might have offered as benefits to where you are today.
So it's kind of funny that you say that. I initially offered benefits to my employees because I needed the benefits myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the business to run a charity. So I was always looking for the most tax efficient way for me to take advantage of everything that you can do as a small business owner. I learned pretty quickly on that I do actually have to take a salary as an owner.
Yeah.
And talk to your accountant. Every accountant has a different opinion about this, but my accountant was pretty emphatic that I needed to take a minimum salary. And we eventually settled on me taking a salary that could maximize my 401k contributions. And so I set up a 401k program in my company specifically so that I could take advantage of the 401k contributions. Because that's a really tax efficient way to set up a retirement fund. Now, some people might tell you to go do an IRA instead of a 401k. You know, there's advantages and disadvantages. Given that we've had mostly Republican administrations over the last, call it 30 years or 20 years, I think it's much, you can probably make a bet that taxes are going to remain low. And so then it's efficient for you to be doing 401ks over IRAs. A 401k is a pre-tax contribution and IRA is a post-tax contribution. So if you do, and then there's a lot of incentives through the federal government for you to set up a 401k contribution. So if you're 50 like I am, you can contribute up to $30,000 a year pre-tax, and then you can do a match on that. So I do a match in my company. So my initial 401k program was set up specifically so that I could maximize my 401k contribution and then maximize my company match. And then I made it available to everybody else in my company. By extension, healthcare. I needed healthcare for myself and my family. So I got a healthcare program set up for my company that I could take advantage of. And then I shared it with everybody else. I don't do an HSA, but I do offer life insurance. I offer dental and vision because my eyes, I'm getting older. I'm 50 now, and so my eyesight started getting bad. Yeah. So I needed to get glasses for myself. So I got an insurance program for eyeglasses. I like to have nice teeth. I do have I want to make sure that I can pay for my my cavities and everything like that. So I got a dental insurance program. So everything I offer to my employees, I did it so that I could take advantage of it as well. And so the programs that I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I participate in whatever programs my employees do. And so if it's not good enough for me, then it's definitely not good enough for my employees. But if it is good enough for me, then I know and I can have confidence and tell my employees that, hey, I'm on the same exact program as you are, and it's good enough for you. And then there's all the ancillary things. So coming out of the pandemic, I took a survey of my employees, asked them about their benefits. A lot of them came back and said, hey, we want short-term disability. I had never offered short-term disability before, but I reached out to my insurance broker and said, hey, walk me through short-term disability. How much is it going to cost? How does it work? And it was a program that was relatively inexpensive, and it's something that I can offer. So these are all, so my pay per driver, per mile is probably on the low end in each of my terminals. I'm definitely nowhere near the top end. I'm, probably, I would say middle to below, but I offer really good benefits. All my drivers get health insurance after 60 days. I have a 401k program with a company match. I offer life insurance, short-term disability, dental, vision. And And so these things I all offer. And then what I have found is once my employees take advantage of this kind of stuff and sign up for it, it becomes very sticky. They don't want to leave, especially, once they get hooked into medical care and they understand that like the advantages of medical care. And that's the other thing that I try to do. I try to educate my employees that you want to set your children up for success, then building generational wealth is done through not having unexpected medical bills.
Yeah.
Like the biggest and fastest way to go bankrupt is to not have health insurance. So I try to educate all my employees that health insurance is the way you make sure that you don't have unexpected medical bills that can drive you into bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And it also gets your drivers away from going to the emergency room for care, which, you and I would be like, oh, why would you ever go to the emergency room for care? I mean, you have to wait for 6 or 7 hours to get seen. That's terrible. But it's also the most expensive way to get care. Mm-hmm. So if you have a doctor and if you're on a medical plan or health insurance, then you have a primary physician that you go see who can refer you to secondary physicians or specialists. That's how you minimize your medical care. Mm. And that's how you only pay a copay to get seen. And that means that you keep more of your money for yourself. The average emergency room visit is $3,000. Okay, you go in for a cold, you're getting charged $3,000. Whereas if you go in for a cold with your primary physician, it might be $50 or $80 at most.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot. I think your benefit plan is, one of your biggest, means of success in terms of keeping these employees. When you've talked about how your pay compares, how do you find that those benefits that you offer compare to the average contractor? Like, what do we see on average?
Yeah, so on average, a lot of guys don't offer health care.
Yeah. Oh, really? Even still in line haul?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you still don't have a lot of truck drivers who are educated enough to understand that, hey, I'm offering you all these benefits and they add up. So my gross payroll expense, if I add in my compensation, everything like that, is probably the same as any other contractor. But if I don't offer those benefits, then all I become is, some chump who's offering a penny more than everybody else.
And you get beat by the next person offering a penny more.
Yeah, and then you get guys who just jump from ship to ship. You don't get any consistency. Mm-hmm. So when a guy offers, say I'm offering 60 cents per mile, and somebody's offering 75 cents per mile, they're offering 75 cents per mile because they don't have the benefits. And so that driver then is expected to go out and find his own health care, either through the ACA or through some other third-party vendor. And he's probably spending more, after tax on his health care than he would be on pre-tax through, and then there's, on top of that, there's just like the other things you can do for your employees. So like I'm wearing an Alpha Kilo, shirt right now. All my managers have Alpha Kilo shirts. I wore, in my other session, you've seen the one with the gold sides. These are my solid blacks. All my drivers, I do jackets every year. They say Alpha Kilo on them. One, it's branding. It's free marketing for me.
Yeah.
My guys are in the yard or they're at a truck stop and they're walking around with Alpha Kilo Logistics. You know the number of times I get phone calls from drivers, either current FedEx or non-FedEx, who say, hey, who's that guy? Who's Alpha Kilo?
Yeah.
Is exponential because of that. So I do T-shirts, I do hoodies, I do sweatshirts, I do jackets, I do steaks, which is my drivers love. So every year after peak, I buy them $70. I buy each of my drivers $70 worth of steaks.
Which, if you're buying $70 worth of steaks, not from a restaurant, like an actual $70 steak that you get from, just any kind of place like that, those are nice steaks.
Yeah, they're really, really good steaks.
Yeah.
It's usually, it's usually like, some years it's been like 5 or 6, New York strip steaks or sirloins or this year I think I did prime rib and T-bones. So, I can't tell you the number of pictures I get from my drivers after they get the steaks of them, thanking me for the steaks and, how they've cooked them up. And I love seeing the recipes. I have some great chefs,
Yeah. Not the ones just burning. Yeah. Have you ever had any of those where, like, you get them a $70 steak and they just sent a picture that they burnt it? And
I did have one guy, and I probably should have. I probably was insensitive. He was either Indian or Pakistani, and they don't eat meat, or they don't eat
Red
beef.
meat,
Sorry. And he asked me if he could get pork or chicken. So I did take care of that.
Yeah.
But I was probably insensitive there, and I probably should have been aware that he didn't eat beef. I didn't. Just didn't cross my mind at the time.
Yeah, but if you helped him out after the fact, that's just as important. Yeah,
it's $70 worth of chicken is a lot of chicken.
that's a lot of chicken. Yeah,
I mean, he was probably he had probably chicken legs to last him for a couple months.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So we've kind of touched on it, but compensation. How outside of benefits, how did you think through what you wanted to do from a pay rate structure, and do you change that? Is it a scale based on tenure, anything like that?
So there's a couple different things. One, I like doing bigger bonuses and lower pay if I can, because your bonuses allow you to incentivize your drivers to a certain behavior. So I probably have larger safety bonuses and retention and holiday bonuses and retention bonuses than the average norm is, to allow me to try to incentivize a certain behavior that I want to have.
Talk to me a little bit about what those bonuses actually do.
So, for example, I have a monthly safety bonus. Then I have holiday bonuses on the paid holidays that FedEx acknowledges.
Okay.
So FedEx acknowledges Memorial Day, Labor Day, the 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
Okay.
Except for Christmas and New Year's, FedEx expects you to work through those holidays. So your drivers are going to be on the road on Thanksgiving, Labor Day, 4th of July, and Memorial Day. So I have bonuses structured to incentivize my drivers to be available and to work if I have offerings for them. My safety bonuses are specifically oriented to incentivize my drivers to follow the safety rules and procedures of my company, to complete their safety training, and adhere to the policies that we have in my company. So this is how we hook up. This is how we break down. This is how we do a door check. This is how we do a door pull off. This is how we enter the vehicle. This is how we exit the vehicle. This is how we do dollies. This is how we do fifth wheels. I have some weird ones. Like, I require all my drivers to use a fifth wheel puller, which is, if you're not familiar, it's a long metal rod that you stick into the fifth wheel to turn it to lock and to unlock and to release and to close the jaws on the fifth wheel. If your driver tries to reach in and tries to turn it, it's been proven that will increase the likelihood of a dislocated shoulder.
Oh,
okay. So by using a fifth wheel puller, you don't have to reach in and put your arm in a difficult position, a compromising position, and it reduces the likelihood of me getting a workers' comp claim for a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah.
Same thing with I require my drivers to wear high-vis gloves. I provide the gloves to my drivers. The gloves have reflective material on all the fingers so that they can see them both in low light and in daylight. Protects them warms their fingers up in the winter.
Yeah.
But it gives a little bit of protection when they're doing hooking up the dolly. The dolly weighs about 300 pounds. So this is a way for me to make sure that they're not going to injure themselves when they're hooking up. So all these different kind of things all have a purpose. My drivers might not know about it, but it's a benefit for me. I'm providing, they're like, oh God, I love working for Alpha Kilo. They provide me with gloves.
Yeah.
Well, or they provide me with a fifth wheel puller. Yeah. But it's also, there's a reason why I'm doing that, because I want to try to reduce my workers' comp claims. I require all my drivers to, have non-slick shoes or closed-toed shoes with non-slick surfaces, so that they enter and exit the vehicle and they're not going to slip and fall.
Yeah.
I also require all my drivers to enter the vehicle facing the cab and always use 3 points of contact. So all these different things are to reduce and minimize the risk of them having a workers' comp claim, which protects my bottom line at the end of the day.
For sure. Yeah. And you don't think about the potential injuries in line haul because people are mainly sitting behind the wheel. But yeah, it's getting in and out of the vehicle or some of the most often that people just make a mistake.
Yeah. And then the biggest thing is just being a safe operator. So if you follow the procedures, you're not using a cell phone, you're not using a handheld device, you're remaining You're limiting the distractions while you're in a cab. You're keeping your following distance. You're not speeding. You're using cruise control. So all these different behaviors are for a reason, because they limit the potential for a rear end or a side swipe collision, which can reduce, limits and reduces the odds that you have an injury while you're driving.
Yeah. So when you talked about it, that you're mainly, keep comp the same, bonuses are bigger. That's kind of like your structure. But if you've got a driver that's been with you for 5 years, do they come to you and say, I want a pay increase? And do you give it? Like, what are your conversations and talk tracks there?
In general, no. I mean, all my drivers get paid the same base rate. Now they might have a different, their year-end bonuses are based off of, one, how they've performed during peak, and two, their longevity with the company.
Yeah.
So that is the year-end or retention bonus that I pay out after peak. Now, I don't pay a bonus during peak. I wait until peak is finished. And so peak typically finishes the first week of January. So they're getting that bonus the following year. For accounting purposes, that first year when you make that switch is going to have an impact on, what your bottom line is from the, because the bonus is like, if you have 47 employees like I do and you're paying everybody $1,000, that's going to have a meaningful impact on what your what your year, what your revenue is for the month of December. So if you move it, it's just beware that there's accounting gimmicks and everything like that you have to work through and understand in your cash flow stream.
From a, whether it's just the economy changing or anything that happens where you may say that the cost of living has increased or decreased, do you ever adjust pay rates, or do you just adjust bonuses around things like that?
No, so I mean, it depends on the year. So this past year, I didn't do an increase in pay rates. I did an increase in bonuses. And that was because I was trying to incentivize we were getting new KPIs for our vetter.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to incentivize my drivers to adhere to those KPIs. So I increased the bonuses to match those, to incentivize my drivers to adhere to these new KPIs. Now this year, I fully expect to do a pay increase, increase my base rates. It will be something along, based off of what my contract is.
Yeah.
And so just so everybody understands, we all have the same. There's multiple components to the settlement. You have the VMR, and then you have your mileage plus rate. In general, the mileage plus rate stays the same for all contractors under the current settlement regime. Now, obviously, FedEx has, in the past 6 years, changed their settlement regime quite a bit. But in the current one, if we keep it standard, your mileage plus rate will stay the same. This is what FedEx views as the basic expense or costs of running your business that are equal across the country, whether it's from your back office, your admin, your software, anything that is not subject to a cost of living. So they look at that as your mileage plus, your taxes, base plates, all those kind of things. And then you have your variable mileage rate, which is in the current regime is not hub or terminal specific, is actually zip code specific. So if you happen to work in, the zip code for Cincinnati, Ohio, then you're going to get paid this VMR. If you work in the hub in Chicago, you're going to get paid this VMR. And so those VMRs change, and they actually increase or decrease at different rates. So they're not going to be equal. So they might say that the cost of living has increased exponentially in California, and it hasn't increased all that much in Phoenix. So, California might see a 5-cent increase on their contract, whereas Phoenix might see a 3-cent increase. So that can cause my company to have a little change in the base rates, and it's kind of, I think, it doesn't always capture how expensive it is for truck drivers. So, for example, Denver is a very expensive market for truck drivers. It's just hard to source truck drivers in Denver. And so for a long time, FedEx would look at Denver and say, oh, the cost of living is not that much. But the truck driver acquisition costs were very high. And so it took a long time for FedEx to recognize that we need to compensate contractors who operate in Denver at the same rate that they're in Chicago, because it's just such a competitive market. And so, you have to work with FedEx and engineering to understand how competitive your markets are and how challenging it is. In general, I would say California, New York, New Jersey, Chicago are the most competitive markets. And so that's where the highest VMR rates are. And by extension, Kansas City, Memphis, Olive Branch, Greensboro are some of the lower areas because there's just not as much demand for truck drivers in those areas.
Yeah. Okay. So you have touched on it some, but the benefits that you've put together, the compensation that you've put together, how have you found that to affect your ability to retain employees long term?
I think the benefits that I've come up with, especially the healthcare and the 401k and my company match, are one of the reasons why I have low turnover. Now, don't get me wrong, I have turnover every year.
Yeah.
I'm always replacing the bottom 10% of my company. Regardless, I can never hire 47 perfect employees who want to stay with me forever.
Yeah.
I think we were talking earlier. I'm right now in the process of hiring three guys.
Yeah.
I had a team just fall apart. One guy decided to move to Charlotte, North Carolina, and so his partner didn't want to be a team. Didn't want to have he stayed with me, and he's going to be a solo driver for me. And so I had to go out and hire a new team. And then I had a team just fall apart. Yeah. The driver they've been with me for a couple of years, and one of the drivers just stopped showing up to work. You never know. Might have problems at home. Yeah. I try to stay on top and talk to my drivers and get them to communicate with me because I care about them. Yeah. But not everybody is going to share, or they don't think that I really do care. So he just stopped showing up to work. So next week I'll be fully staffed again. I had a driver, go work for. This is actually something that really frustrates me. I had a driver who gave me no notice and left to go for another contractor, and I think that is. I have very little respect for contractors who recruit inside the fence. In my mind, that's just poor behavior. Yeah. And I've actually, I've had situations before where I had a contractor who inside the yard who was recruiting my drivers, and I got frustrated by it. Yeah. And so I one morning I drove down to the yard, walked into the terminal and offered all the drivers a bunch of cash to just sit and not dispatch that day.
Oh, man.
I pissed off FedEx. I pissed off that contractor, but I made my point. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? It's not acceptable for you to keep, poaching my drivers. Yeah. It's not the way. This is a closed system in some ways. Like we can help each other, but if you're going to just take every driver that I bring in, then. So, it worked out. He got the idea. He stopped poaching my drivers, and now we have a good relationship. But, that's very good of you. I think the drivers all appreciate it. Yeah. But in general, I'm trying to help out other people. So I will refer drivers to other contractors. So, we've talked about it in previous sessions. I'm always recruiting, or I'm always getting referrals. As people come to me and say, "Hey, I'm looking for work," I will try to help them find work if I don't have anything. I'll call up, Josh Gregory and say, "Hey, I don't have a spot, but this guy reached out to me. Do you need a driver?" Do it all the time. Okay. And guys do it to me too. So it's great. Yeah. And that's what I think the market should be like, instead of like, oh, you know what, I'm going to try to poach Josh's drivers, because then all you're doing is just creating, this situation where we're actually harming our customer, FedEx. FedEx doesn't want to see us, turf wars inside the yard for drivers. At the end of the day, they want all the tractors dispatching on a daily basis. Yeah. But I got distracted there. So what was the original question? Yeah, it's how it always happens. No, when you're thinking, you answered it mostly, but the other side of it is when you're thinking about how long people have been with you. So I've had drivers. I have drivers now who are going on 6 years of employment with me. Right. I have probably, out of my 47 employees, I would say if you talk to my HR manager, I probably have 40 of them, or maybe 35. No, 40, who've been with me more than a year. Yeah. And that's great. Because, the thing we always talk about is recruiting is not cheap. No. At a minimum, it's $500 per week. Yeah. At a minimum, just to post an ad on Indeed and what you have to do is you have to like subsidize it. You have to encourage clicks on it.
Yeah.
What you want your ad at the top and not at the bottom. So there's all these marketing gimmicks. You know, if you talk to somebody who's into internet advertising, they can tell you about, you know, charging for clicks and all that kind of stuff. I don't really understand it. But yeah, $500 a week. I would say the typical cost for a driver at a minimum is $6,000.
Yeah.
That's how much it's going to cost you to, you know, to recruit a driver. So you post an ad, then you have to go through all the time that you or your HR manager or your recruiter is wasting to go through and filter all those drivers, select more than one, because you can't just expect one driver is going to go through the process, but you're usually working in sequence or in parallel, bringing a bunch of drivers through First Advantage, spending all that time and manpower to get through First Advantage. And it takes 7 to 10 business days at a minimum to get a driver to get through all that. So that's more time that you're wasting. And in the meantime, you're not filling that spot in that truck, so you're losing that revenue. So that's why at a minimum is $6,000 to replace a driver.
Then you have to onboard them. Then you have to train them on your culture, you know.
So, I mean, I think one year I estimated that I had spent $60,000 to recruit drivers.
Yeah.
So at a minimum, I mean, that was just recruiting costs, let alone all the opportunity costs I lost.
Right.
So that's why I harp on this: treat your drivers well. You know, treat them with respect, speak to them truthfully, and they will reward you with loyalty. And that loyalty is worth every penny, because losing that driver means that you're out that revenue. And then you're incurring these extra costs, and it's an extraordinary amount. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have a bad driver, a bad apple, get rid of them as fast as possible, because the last thing you want is them to create a safety issue or a culture issue. And a safety issue can be a lot of money. The last thing you want is to lose your indemnification with FedEx because they haven't done their safety training. And then on top of that, they get into an accident and you're being hit with a $75,000 charge.
Yeah.
So make sure your drivers are safe. Make sure that you have good employees. But if you have a bad apple, get rid of them immediately. But as long as your apples are good, you know, even if there's sometimes, you know, might be, you know, have a couple brown spots on them. If you can buff it out and work it, you know, that's an employee that, you know, who's going to be very loyal to you. Like I had a driver recently who went through a divorce. He's like, I just can't be focused on work. You know, I don't have any more PTO. Can I take a couple weeks off? I said, sure. You know, your family's more important. Get your children situated, figure out what you're going to do. And, you know, he's been great ever since. This was like 2 or 3 years ago. The guy doesn't take any PTO anymore. Like, I mean, I keep trying to encourage him to take time off. I mean, at the end of the day, I buy back his PTO. So that's another benefit I offer. I offer all my drivers PTO, paid time off, and I structured it as paid time off instead of as vacation. It's just a nuance in the labor laws. Talk to your accountant or your lawyer to understand how your state works and how vacation versus PTO is categorized, because there are different rules per state by it. So I do PTO, and then I buy back any unused PTO before peak. And so which encourages my drivers not to take time off during peak.
And really, I think that's the right strategy in this space. I mean, I think we talk about it all the time, and we've talked about it here, where there are people who just try to pay a little bit more, and you don't retain the employees. You end up spending a lot more. You know, I think we've talked about people who are paying what seems like an impossible amount of money. But in situations like that, you're just commoditizing your drivers, and they're going to move on to the next person who can offer them a penny more. And so this is a strategy that, you know, we employ, that we've seen good contractors like you employ, to have the right benefit package, treat your drivers right, find all the ways to value them, things like the steaks and the jackets, where it really feels like you care about them more as a number. Keep them in the long run, both to create the right culture for your business, because you've got employees that you've taught this culture, they're embodying it, and they're staying, as opposed to trying to rebuild the culture every single time you bring in a new driver. And that saves you a ton of money and keeps your contract healthy as well, like all the things you've talked about. And I think ultimately that's how you structure benefits and compensation in a way that is the most successful.
And this is kind of some of the fun stuff you get to do as a contractor. like recruiting is, I mean, maybe you find recruiting fun. I don't generally find recruiting fun.
Yeah.
I do find spreadsheets, relatively intriguing and, intellectually interesting. And so I find that, I guess, intellectually fun or stimulating. But where the fun part is, you know what? I'm going to do water bottles this year. Let me design a water bottle.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to do baseball caps. Let me design a baseball cap. That's the fun stuff. I mean, over my 6 years or 6.5 years of being a contractor, I've done, like you said, jackets, hoodies, sweatshirts, T-shirts, collar shirts, backpacks. I did sunglasses.
Yeah.
There's like this.
Did they have the logo on them? Or?
Yeah.
Nice.
The sky's the limit on. I mean, I'm sure that you have somebody here at Route Consultants who really enjoys coming up with swag.
It's definitely true. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And there's so many websites to source this stuff. I mean, one of the things my drivers love is we do safety vests that are emblazoned with Alpha Kilo.
Nice. Yeah.
So, you're required to wear a safety vest when you're on a FedEx facility. So all my trucks come equipped with 2 safety vests. Even if they're a day cab, they each have 2 safety vests. So, so my drivers walking around the yard, they're always saying Alpha Kilo.
Yeah.
In the summer, in the winter,
If they've got to wear a safety vest, at least make it a cool one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right. Well, Alex, I really appreciate you walking through kind of your strategy here and how you've built this benefits and compensation program for your team and sharing how it can help everybody else.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I mean, it's remember, you want to make sure that it's benefits that you want to participate yourself in and then make it fun.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks.